is false.
Very entertaining. Thanks, sweetie. My name's Betsy. I'm an addict. Is this okay?
Yeah.
I have difficulty standing for a long period of time, and I used to try to do it anyway until I realized what you guys teach me around here is I can speak. I can speak my voice and I can ask for what I need today, and it's like really okay. So this is an achievement for me to be able to say, you know what, I need to sit down. I want to thank the committee for inviting me to come here, and I want to thank everyone who has been of service to put on this fantastic convention. I want to thank all the women who promised that they were going to make faces at me so I wouldn't be nervous. And I want to thank everyone who's ever opened a door to a meeting. I want to thank everyone who's ever made coffee for a meeting. If it weren't for those of us who opened the door week after week after week, I don't know where I'd be today. And I rarely have had anyone say to me, you know, thanks for, just opening the door. But man, whenever I go to a meeting, that's the first thing I do. It's like I look around and I see who opened the door here tonight, who got here an hour early and made sure the door was open so that an addict can find a meeting. And I want to, really thank you for doing that from the bottom of my heart. You guys sure are pretty. Is everyone having fun? Is this the best? Is this the best? This is the best. You guys are totally awesome. I'll be nervous for the first few minutes and then I'll get out of myself. So it'll be okay. I've gotten to go to a lot of different gatherings all around this country, and I've gone even out of the country. And just in case you guys were late, this is how I usually do a convention. I get there Friday, and I look around, and I feel really uncomfortable, and I go into my room immediately, and I turn to Tony and I say, the women aren't very friendly here. Only, area, state, region where there are no friendly women at this whole convention. And so I, lock myself in the room for a while, and then I'll get out. And like today, I went to an awesome meeting that was, what was that one? Every clean addict is a miracle. Best, it was everything. Of course, when you go to meetings out of state, everyone is so spiritual. It's like, wow, did you hear that? Wow, did you hear that honesty? Man, and it's so impressive. I always say, God, everybody here is so spiritual, but that's because you haven't heard them whine about the same thing over and over again for so I went to that meeting, excuse me, and then I went to a couple marathons, and they were great meetings. And so by this afternoon, I'm telling Tony, the women here, they're pretty friendly. This is a great fellowship. They're really tight here. They're really unified. Everyone's pretty friendly. And by Sunday, the women here are the best in the whole world. Excuse me. And we're going to be friends for life, and we're going to write every week, and we're going to meet again at the World Convention. And then I go home, and a couple months later, I'll go to another convention, and Friday night I'll turn and say, the women here aren't very friendly. Has nothing to do with me, right? And I love conventions because it's like this process. Do you do the process here where you got all this life stuff happen all year long, and you come here and then that stuff comes out that's been needing to come out, and there's people crying in the marathons, and it all happens, it all becomes clear, and you heard exactly what you needed to hear from whatever, and you go home just going, man, why don't Addicts are so interesting. Why don't we do what's so wonderful for us more often? You know, you'll hear me talk about, and anything I share here is my personal opinion, but I have, Betsy's pet theories of recovery, and one of them is that addicts resist the things that would benefit them the most. You know, we have a wonderful home group. My home group is the Topanga Tranquil Meeting in Topanga Canyon in Southern California. And we have this huge fireplace. It's like a big walk-in fireplace, and there's 100 people there, and dogs are welcome. And people come and they go, oh man, this is like an amazing meeting. I feel like there's honesty here, and it's a real strict meeting. I feel the respect and all the stuff. And they go, yeah, I haven't been to this meeting though for a couple of years. And it's like, well, why not if you like it so much? Well, you know, it's such a trip how when something's real good, sometimes, maybe, I don't know about you, I get afraid. You know, I get afraid, I don't think I deserve it, so it's like, oh man, that meeting was great. I ain't never going back there, you know. Woo! But we are a vision of hope. Isn't that beautiful? We are, you know, and a clean addict is a miracle. Addicts are the most wonderful people. I love addicts. I love women addicts. The women do recover in Narcotics Anonymous. And we recover good, and we deserve the best. And we get to find our voice around here. I'm not saying anything, those of you who know me, you know, I love all addicts, but it's been, sometimes, you know, we need to speak loudly, those of us who have not spoken for a long time. And I cherish and embrace my right to be able to speak my truth today. Where I came from, I'll try to keep this real short. You got to be careful whenever a speaker says, I'll keep the using part short, because it's like 45 minutes later and they're still on it, but I really will keep it short because it is so boring. I have the most boring using story, and I think everybody here knows how to use. So, I mean, what? So what? Is somebody going to teach you anything? You know. I don't remember any fun out there. I don't have any real entertaining, you know, wasn't it great kind of things. I am 47 awesome years old. I was born in Los Angeles in 1950. I grew up in West LA, normal, average, I don't know. I mean, and I was a hippie in the 60s. And there was a little bit of pretty times back then. It took me many years in recovery to remember anything pretty about the past, but there were some nice times. I remember being a part of, you know, the other hippies and having some kind of a common purpose. And it wasn't really all that much about drugs back then. It was whatever, peace, love, protesting, you know, carrying banners and marching and stuff. And there was a little bit of pretty times that I remember, but and then it got pretty ugly pretty fast. So for me, my story was that I used everything there is to use. I also had something happen when I was in my early 20s. I got in a car accident. I broke my neck and my back, and I spent a year in an orthopedic hospital. And those of you who are new, who have gone into like a 28-day, or you're counting your first 30 days, you know how long 30 days is? A year in a hospital is a real long time. And I was flat on my back, and the best I could do was to entertain myself was, I remember counting the holes in the acoustic ceiling. and I was exposed to a huge amount of drugs. And then I learned to walk again, steel brace, all that kind of stuff. I went back home, something went wrong. I went back to the hospital. I spent another year in an orthopedic hospital, another one. And it's like, it just knocked the wind out of my sails. I have a hard time sharing about this because it's so long ago and it's not who I am today. But I was exposed to a lot of drugs, and I was taught many things. Somebody's bringing me water. Thank you very much. And one of the things I was taught was be good, be quiet, be compliant, or you won't get what you need to feel okay. So I learned those things. I'll share one experience. I don't know why, but I feel like sharing this. I was real sick. I couldn't walk. I was real scared. I was 23 years old. I was a real young, scared person. They did this spinal tap, and something went wrong, and I couldn't feel anything, and I started crying and screaming in the hospital, and I couldn't control myself, and I messed the bed, and I was so scared, and they came in and they gave me Thorazine, and they knocked me out on Thorazine. 2 weeks later, as I was coming to, they said, "Are you going to be quiet now?" And I went, "Uh-huh, yeah, I will." I became the perfect patient. And I don't know why I share that, but I was taught over the years that I needed to take something outside of me and put it in me to be okay, that I was not okay. And however you learn that lesson, I believe that addicts all had that feel that we weren't okay just the way we were. Something was missing, and we had to put it inside of us to feel right. Anyway, a long story, over the next 10 years, I spent approximately 6 years in hospitals. And my last day using, my last day using, I had just come home. I had spent 9 months in a hospital. And I was so strung out because I was getting shots every 3 hours, round the clock, For my first 3 years clean, I woke up every 3 hours, reaching for like a buzzer or something. It's like, where's the buzzer? But in a hospital bed. But so my last day using, I had come home from the hospital, and they gave me, a bunch of the papers with the doctor's signatures on them. So I remember getting my little Volkswagen. I drove to the local pharmacy, and I stood there at the pharmacy shaking, kind of like I am now. Shaken at the pharmacy counter, trying to fill these prescriptions, knowing that it wasn't going to be enough. And I was 34 years old, and I couldn't remember how to write a check. And I stood there at this pharmacy counter, just like, all of a sudden tears started streaming down my face, and I went, what happened to me? What happened to me? I don't get it. I tried to be good. I was quiet. I was nice. I was subservient. They used to call me the little trooper. Oh, Betsy, she's such a little trooper. And I know. And so I couldn't remember how to write the check, and I finally wrote the check, and I went and got that, and then I went next door to the market and got a bottle, and I sat out in my car, just shaken, took a bunch of this and was drinking a bunch of that, and I just wanted to get even enough. Just not about getting loaded, man. I just wanted to get even enough so I could get home. And I sat there in this parking lot, big old parking lot, and there were hundreds of cars like pulling in and out. And it was about 5 o'clock at night, and people were pulling in and out because they were going into the market to do this like amazing thing, like to go buy some food, to go home and make dinner. And there was like single people, you know, all dressed from their job, running in to buy some chicken, and there was couples holding hands, walking into the market. They were gonna like go buy food and cook, you know, and they could walk and talk to each other. And there was couples, and they were swinging a baby between them, and they picked up the baby and put it in the little, you know, push cart, and they were laughing and smiling, you know. They weren't like this. And I looked at this and I watched these people doing normal life, doing regular life, and I looked at that and I went, my God, what happened to me? What happened? I don't think we got here. I don't think addicts said, I think I'm going to get myself so strung out that I'm going to be like totally incapable of ever having, you know, having a life. It's like, what happened? I just did what I needed to do. I believe we all did what we needed to do. I'm real, hopefully I'll get back to this, but I'm real big on the 6th and 7th step. Those are my favorite steps. And I believe that our defects of character, I don't think the disease of addiction is a moral issue. I believe that my defects of character were survival techniques that worked once for me and helped me survive. And they worked fine. That was the best I could do. It worked, and the only thing I need to learn in recovery is that I'm in a safe place with you people now. It's no longer necessary for me to do that anymore, and I don't need to hurt myself and others anymore, because today I'm with you, and you're going to teach me how to live. So when I don't know how I got here. I opened the yellow pages that night and called a suicide hotline because I figured I knew nobody had ever mentioned to me that I had a drug problem. In fact, most of the people, sad to say, that I knew preferred me using. And I'll get to that later, but nobody ever said, you know, there's recovery in Narcotics Anonymous. I'd never heard of Narcotics Anonymous, but I checked myself into one of these places because I thought I was suicidal, and they said, you know what, you may have a problem with drugs, and I said, fine, whatever, it's a hospital, I know how to do hospitals. Of course, I was really weird when I got there. I thought, where's the buzzer, you know? And, you know, you're not going to bring my tray into me, and all that stuff, but, so when I walked in there, I weighed 72 pounds, and I had never been off a drug for a day since I was 23 years old. And, you know, a lot of addicts have had experience with kicking, with whatever, detoxing, whatever you want to call it. I'd never had that experience before, and it was a tremendous thing. I walked around saying, I'm going to die, I'm going to die. I haven't slept, it's 33 days, I haven't fallen asleep yet, I'm going to die. And they said, nobody's ever died from not sleeping. And I said, I'm going to be the first one. And my pain was so great when I got here. My differences, you know, of course, when I got clean, of course, there was no women in NA, and all you guys had tattoos and wore black leather jackets, because of course that's what I saw, you know. I had to see all the differences. And I was the only middle-aged woman, and, you know, I'll tell you, my first Narcotics Anonymous meeting, I'd been in this place, and they finally let me out of bed, and they said, Betsy, there's a meeting down the hall, especially for you. And so I went to this meeting, and I was wearing my hospital gown and the pink fuzzy slippers, and I brought my pillow and a blanket, and I walked into my first meeting of Narcotics Anonymous, looking very cool. Being very hip, slick, and cool around here. It's good when you start that way, because you don't have any far to go. And I walked in, and there was about 6 people sitting there, and someone sitting next to me turned to me and said, you don't ever have to use again. no matter what. And that was September 22nd, 1984, and I haven't had to use since. And I'm clapping for you all, because that, without you, I wouldn't be here. I'm clapping for you all, because Narcotics Anonymous works, and it works good. I know a lot of people have relapses, and I honor everyone's truthful story. I honor my truthful story too, if I can remember it. But you know, sometimes you tell a story so long that you look back and go, did that really happen? I don't know if I just exaggerated that 10 years ago, but I hope it's, you know, of course more will be revealed. But it is possible, and you can stay clean from your first meeting of Narcotics Anonymous on. And all of us sitting here, wouldn't it be a wonderful thing? And it is possible if the differences between our clean time never changes. And that would be. So I came to Narcotics Anonymous. I was one of the most obnoxiously happy newcomers in NA. I walked around with this big old, we can't swear here, right? One of these big old grins, and I was so happy to be clean. I really was, and you guys can, you know, poo-poo that all you want, but I have been thrilled to not have to use every day that I've been here. I'm just thrilled, you know. My life is phenomenal today. We deserve the best around here. We have fun around here. It took me 5 years reading just for today. I thought it used to say, learn to live life without the use of drugs. It took me 5 years to see that it says, we learn to live and enjoy life without the use of drugs. I guess, you know, I needed to learn how to do that, because it was all about volunteering for victimhood and enjoying high drama and being, in huge self-imposed miseries, because, thank you. And, a lot of it can be about that, because that's our old habit, is like, this is serious stuff around here, and it is serious. But once we get a hang of the basics around here, please have fun. And even if you're new, enjoy your first year clean. Enjoy it. Our first year clean around here, we are supposed to be, and have permission to be, complete babbling idiots. We are not, addicts are so funny. We come into here and we think we're supposed to know it. That's why everybody tries to memorize everything, and all that stuff. But just give yourself a break. Your first year, you're supposed to know nothing. You're supposed to have it all backwards and upside down. And that's when everybody gets the privilege of patting you on the back and saying, oh, you're doing so good. I was telling this to someone earlier. Trust me, you come in here, you make coffee, you open a meeting, you do all that stuff. They go, oh, Betsy, you're doing so good. Isn't she cute? And she's so sweet. And oh, you made such good coffee. And how good, you read real good. You do the same stuff. All of a sudden, 8 years go by, 10 years go by, and you hear, man, that fucking bitch wants to run everything. But it's true. So when you're new, enjoy it, because you get to take chips. You know how many times I have you ever started to stand up to take a chip when, just because, I want to get up there and have somebody say hi to me or something. And enjoy it. And also, I believe for me, when we're new, go for, let me ask you something. When you guys were using, when you, all women, guys, when we were all using, did we look around and say, now let's see, those drug dealers have all the good stuff, and those guys, well, they don't show up half the time. They got junky stuff, and sometimes it's not even the real stuff, and sometimes they rip me off, and they're never reliable. Gee, who am I going to go hang out with? I don't think that when we were using, we went to hang out with the people who were unreliable, didn't show up. So if we apply some of the same spiritual principles as we did in our using, in recovery, it's an amazing thing. It works. Who do you look around this room? Whose recovery do you admire? Who do you want to feel like you think they feel? I look around, I try to find happy people in my life. It took me years to change that. I don't know why. When I was 8 years clean, my sponsor turned to me and said, Betsy, why don't you hang out with people that like you? You know, instead of always running after the person that didn't, you know, or I need to make this relationship work. We hate each other, but regardless of that, I need to make it work. You didn't go to a dealer that, you know, didn't help you out with what you needed. So stick with the people who you want to be like. And another thing I wanted to mention, thank you very much to the program committee or whoever printed up your little directories that put the respect statement in there. It moved me. I love Narcotics Anonymous. I honor the people who went before me. I respect recovery. I respect the people who walk like they talk. And I respect our basic text and our fellowship. Like I say, you know, it's one thing to have fun, and I have a lot of fun, but, you know, there's people around this fellowship that may not be here next year because, you know what, some of us are getting old in recovery. Yes, this is the first generation. You know how exciting this is? We're the first addicts who are going to have to deal with menopause and senility, and we're going to grow old together. We're going to be the first one to have topic meetings about, am I too old to recover, you know, this is an amazing thing. And for the women here, you know, we're going to be like the examples. Addicts never lived this long. They didn't. They just, you know, we hurt ourselves so much, we died. And we're going to have addicts. I have a sponsee who has a year and a half clean, and she's 14. When she's my age, she's going to have 35 years clean in Narcotics Anonymous, guaranteed. And we need to, you know, this thing is growing and it's exploding, and we have a lot to be the first at. We need to be strong together to welcome the next person in, and we're doing a heck of a good job at it. There's a couple things I want to include tonight, so I'll try to like rein back from the enthusiasm every once in a while. When I had a year clean, I got in another car accident and got my neck broken again. And man, I just knew it. I knew that there was some reason why I wasn't going to be able to stay here. All you guys could stay here, but it wasn't for me. Does anyone here have that hole in there, or had that hole that I just don't deserve this. It just isn't going to be for me. You're going to show me how great this thing is, and then the whole thing's going to be taken away, just like everything else is always taken away. And man, it just broke my heart because I loved you guys, and I loved being here from the minute I got here. And here it was, and it was all going to be, taken away. And a miraculous thing happened. I went through some more surgery, and all I can say is that the fellowship, one person took me by one arm, another person took me by the other arm, and they walked me through that thing, and I didn't have to I didn't have to go nowhere, and I learned one more time, that you don't have to use no matter what happens, no matter what. But during that time, after that, I had a pretty rough time. I couldn't walk too good, I couldn't move my arms very good, and I was still feeling kind of a hole deep inside, still really scared all the time. I'm still really scared all the time. But these days, I'm able to say, Betsy, what are you afraid of? What are you afraid of? And it really, my sponsor does that to me. She says, what are you really afraid of? And it's like, man, how can I be afraid here with you? What's going to happen? I'll tell you real quick. My first gathering, one of my first conventions, I had, a year clean or so, and I went to this gathering, and there's 2,000, 3,000 people at this big speaker thing. And there were going to be two speakers. The first speaker didn't show up. So they asked this woman, her name is B, and she had a lot of clean time. I don't know if somebody here knows her. Anthony's wife, B. And she, and they said, would you be the first speaker? And she said, sure. She had a lot of time. And I had a year, and I was sitting way back there. And she got up here, and she said, hi, my name's B, and I'm an addict. And I'm really grateful to be here tonight. And then she kind of stumbled, and she went, okay, my name's B, and I'm an addict. I'm really grateful to be here tonight. And then she got real nervous. And she said, my name is B, and I'm an addict. I'm really grateful to be here. And she stood up there for about 5 minutes, and she said, you know what, I'm really sorry, but this is not happening. And she went and sat down. She got a standing ovation, right? I sat in the back there and cried. I went hysterically crying because I saw firsthand that you don't have to be a circuit speaker to stay clean for a long time in Narcotics Anonymous. And all we have to do is just be ourselves. In fact, Narcotics Anonymous is the only place I've ever been in my life when all that you want from me is for me to be myself. And if I'm phony and if I put on a bunch of cool shit, you guys are gonna go, out of here, man. But if I'm just myself, it's like that's what we do here. That's the miracle of one addict helping another. So anyway, after the surgery, I was really not feeling so good. I was still feeling real scared. And I was telling some people about my garden. And I garden. We got to obsess at something, I got 57 rose bushes, right? I'm an addict. You don't have two, you have 57 rose bushes. So one day I went out to my garden. I've been clean for a while. I've been doing my thing, working my steps. And I was out in my garden, and it was a sunny day, and I couldn't stand too long, and I wanted to dig the wells around each of these rose bushes. And the ground was really hard, so I just started running the hose. And I was running the hose, and it got warmer, and I just sat down in the middle of the rose garden. It was wet, and it was muddy, and so instead of digging around each rose bush, I couldn't dig. My wrists were real weak, so I thought I'd just make mud. And I'd just make mud, and I'd build up the wells around each rose bush. And it got hotter, and the water got deeper, and the mud, and I had mud up to my ankles, and then I just sat down in it, and I had mud up to my waist, and it got hotter, and the water was deeper, and I was making these pretty wells around each of my rose bushes. And the ground got softer, and my arms just went further and further into the dirt. And for just a moment, I leaned in, put my arms all the way as far as I could reach, and I just hugged her, and she breathed. And I felt a part of this world. It was a feeling I'd never felt before in my life. I felt like I belonged. I felt like I hugged it, and that I was it, and it was me. And I feel that when I'm with you, when I get out of my ego. I feel that, we just reach out our arms and we hug each other because we are not separate. And as an addict, I have to tell myself, if it was so wonderful, then why don't we do it more often? Why? So part of my reaching for my higher power is to go put myself in the place where my higher power can hug me back. My neighbors think I'm weird. I go out, I hug trees, and I'm watering. I'm always watering. They go, Betsy, you watering again? It's like, uh-huh. And my significant other's going, honey, do you know how much the water bill was last month? And it's like, I don't care. It's worth every penny. So whatever moves you, I learned this. For me, it's like whatever moves you, do it. Does this feel totally wonderful? You're sitting with your sisters and brothers in recovery? Well, then let's do it again, Another story I like to tell that reminds me of addicts. Addicts are such fascinating people. Don't you love addicts? I just love addicts. And I have had, 15 corner conversations with different women at this gathering here, and each one of them, it's like, yes, let's, and you just want to hug each other because we relate. We are, it's a beautiful thing. But I believe that an addict, and tell me if you relate to this, an addict, before we get clean, and also many times in recovery, has these things that happen. And I call them my Alice in Wonderland. Picture Alice in Wonderland. And where she's standing in that hallway, and it's real dark and quiet, and all of a sudden, stop action, she's in that hall. It's this long hallway, and there's two doors. There's one door on the left, one door on the right. You know this one. And behind the door on the left is active addiction, right? The agony, the humiliation, the degradation, the shame, the ugliness. You remember that one time when you went, please, I need some more. You remember that? No one, never forget that. Don't ever forget that. And that's behind the left door, and all that shame and lying and hurting people and hurting yourself. And behind the door on the right is recovery in Narcotics Anonymous, right? And there's people tipping through the tulips and hugging each other, and the women are hugging, going, hey, sister, I love you. And the men are going, hey, bro, how you doing? How they do. And there's little kids, and the babies, the NA babies are running through the field of tulips, and everybody's happy like on a picnic and loving and kissing, just like how it is at your area service committee meetings. And the addict, like me, stands in that hallway and I look at the door on the left, and I look at the door on the right, and you already know what I'm going to say. I look there, and I look there, and I stand in the hallway, and I go, ooh, tough choice. It's a weird thing. I mean, don't ever tell that story to a non-addict, because they go, I don't get it. You go to the good one, like real quick, right? You slam that door, you go, ugh, and you go rush into that good one going, I'm here, you know. But addicts, isn't it amazing, you know, addicts, they say, well, you don't understand. Yeah, but I feel more comfortable over there. See, because we know how to do that. Addicts hate to do something that they don't know how to do. But I'm more comfortable there. I know everyone there. I don't get along with women so well. I just get along better with men. It's always been that way, or vice versa, you know. Oh, it's sponsor? Nah, nobody. And then, you know, it's all about I wouldn't be comfortable. One thing, if anyone here is new, whoever told us we're supposed to be comfortable coming into recovery or in recovery? Comfortable is comatose. In fact, I forgot to mention this. Everyone always asks, what's your drug of choice? My drug of choice, and I don't like to talk about specific drugs because, you know, we don't do that. But I'll tell you as a secret, don't tell anybody. My drug of choice was general anesthesia. The closer I was to death, the more comfortable I felt. Does anybody relate to that? It's like, I'm just not too comfortable. I need to take the edge off. Could you take the whole edge off? Could you take my whole life? You know, just put me like in limbo there where I don't feel anything. And that's how I feel comfortable. So anyway, we look at this doorway on the left, we go, but I'm comfortable, I know how to do that. And we look at the door on the right, and we go, I don't know anyone there, and I may not be comfortable, and all this stuff. At Addict, we do this thousands of times, even in our recovery. Even in our, you know that woman that you want to talk to who you admire? How many times have you called her? You know, you got a list of phone numbers, you're new, and they gave you a list of phone numbers. Oh, I'm sure the first thing you did was run home and call all of them, right? Because it's not comfortable, but, you know, I don't have to be close to comatose today to be comfortable. I wanted to share a little bit about current things. You know, a lot of times I get bugged at people with a whole lot of clean time because they say, you know, they talk about what it was like, how they got here, and then times run out and they're only up to their first, you know, 5 or 10 years clean. And there's people with 20, I want to know what you do from your 20th to your 25th year clean. You know, I want to know that kind of stuff. So I always say, why don't you just like start at year 15 and move forward? But you guys heard about the big earthquake? I guess I'll do that. We were debating who's going to do the earthquake story, but I got to go first, so he can do rebuttal. Because our perceptions, relationships, and recovery, we do have awesome, loving, long-term, successful relationships in recovery. This is not about, we're still sick, we can't do that kind of stuff. We can do financial recovery, nobody ever talks about it. We can do relationship recovery, we can do anything. And we better around here because we're the example for the newcomers coming in. I don't believe that I can hide behind that oh, well, I'm just a sick addict, so, what do you expect? I stole the 7th tradition treasury, but, oh, well. It's like, no, we don't do that. We practice these principles in all our affairs. We take it home with us, too. We practice it at home. Where was I going? Oh, the earthquake. I have the most incredible relationship in recovery. Of course, I have the best home group in Narcotics Anonymous. I have the best sponsor in Narcotics Anonymous. And I'm in the best relationship in Narcotics Anonymous. And if you don't feel that way about yours, you have my permission to get a different one. Of all those, sponsor, home group, relationship, friends, I have the best women friends in recovery. Anyway, Tony and I have been together for 13 years. I have 13 and a half years clean. You do the math. That wasn't for the applause. That was for how much clean time did she have when they got together? But anyway. Hi, honey. I thought you already went to the bathroom. Go ahead. Go ahead. Anyway, we've been in a relationship for 13 years, and I've never dreamt that there was nothing like I'd ever experienced before. When we leave in the morning, he turns to me and he says, every morning for 13 years, so what can I do for you today? It's been so good, and we deserve that. We deserve that. We deserve the best. I don't believe that the steps of Narcotics Anonymous are here to teach you how to act out on your defects of character while you're in an abusive situation. I'm really hot about this. This is not about, learning how to be a saintly victim. This is about learning how to speak your truth, put yourself in the best situation that you deserve, and hang on to it. We had enough. I had enough out there. Life's really short. And we had enough. And we earned our seats here. And it's about having fun and giving love and getting, everything that our higher power wants for us, I believe. So anyway, a few years ago, there was this earthquake. And one of the little things I prided myself on is I had a little home. A little very funky, old house. But I had my own house, I was real proud of that. I don't have much, but I was something. I'm a real nester, and I had a little decorated, and my rose garden, and it meant a lot to me. And I hesitate to share about this sometimes, but I got to be who I am. It meant a lot to me. I was real proud of it. And in this earthquake, 4:30 in the morning, Tony and I are sleeping, and the whole house fell down. And he threw himself on top of me because the boulders were coming and the rafters and all that. And he threw himself on top of me to protect me, and I was trying to push him off because I was jumping up because I was trying to hold the walls up and go, not the house, not my house, please, not my house. And, it's like, I was going to hold it up. And the whole thing just fell down, and, we crawled out through the boulders and the dust, and I sat there out in the middle of the street and just sat out there and cried. It was like, everything's gone. Everything's gone. And, I went anyway. So we're sitting out there, and the neighbors are all coming, and everybody's crowding around, and Tony crawls back into the house. And it's like, you don't go in there. And there's, electricity flashing, and this is real dangerous stuff. And he crawls back into the house, and he finally comes crawling out of the house and dragging something with him. And You know, like what? The jewelry, the insurance papers, like, oh, he came out with the NA coffee pot. And I said, what are you doing? Are you out of your mind? You went in there, risked your life for the coffee pot? And he said, it's Monday. We got a home group meeting to set up. You know, the roads are sticking up in the air, and there's no electricity, and it's like a disaster area, like a bomb hit it. And we go traipsing off down the road to open our meeting. And he did. And we sat there, we lit a big fire in the fireplace. It was pretty funny because there was a few people showed up, crawled out and showed up, and it was funny because they took the coffee pot and they put coffee in it and water and plugged it in, and we sat there around the fire, and one guy kept saying, the coffee, I don't know what's wrong, the coffee ain't ready. We sat there in the dark around the fire, in the dark. It's like, the coffee's not ready. It's like, it took us about an hour and a half to figure out there wasn't any electricity, but we made the coffee. We have never missed making the coffee at our home group. Come earthquakes and floods and all that stuff, but it was a real hard time. We lost our house. Tony and I lived in the backyard, camping for 2.5 years. He had a really good time. And, you know, I'm a nester. It was like, we had this little 8 by 10 foot trailer, and then all the like camping equipment scattered around it. It was really lovely. And I'm trying to like decorate it, you know. And then pretty soon the bulldozers came, and for the next 2.5 years, they're digging out foundations and rebuilding this house. And the bulldozers kept banging into the trailer, you know, while I was in it. Like, they kept hitting, and I was so miserable. I was so miserable. I didn't tell you, honey, how miserable I was. I'm sure you couldn't have guessed. I was so unhappy. And we had some really tough times together. You want to see if a relationship will last? Live in an 8-foot trailer for about 2.5 years with camping equipment spread all around. And Tony's great because he's Mr. Outdoors anyway. So he'd come home and go, hey, guess what? I'm having 15 guys over for dinner. And I go, we don't have 15 plates. You know, we got 2 plates and 2 forks. And he said, don't worry about a thing. Don't worry about a thing. But, you know, that's my job, is like to worry. Does anybody else have that job? He always asks me, it's like when I go, I'm worried about the plane flight and the this and then that. And Tony always turns to me and says, so, does it help? But man, I was so miserable. I was so safe. But as an addict woman, one thing that we're really good at is mud holding. Does anybody know about mud holding? I'm okay. Everything's fine. I'm fine. Everything's just fine. Love washing my clothes in a bucket. I'm, you know, cooking, yes. Cooking, camping, you know, and all that stuff. And I don't think I've ever shared about this at the meeting, but I got real sick. And I got more and more sick, and I got real sick. And I, you know, had physical problems, and I got real sick, and I got real sick, and I got real sick. And one day, Tony, I kept telling him, I really don't feel good. I really don't feel good. I hate to whine, you know. That was so much a part of who I was in my early recovery. It's like, Betsy, I'm sick, you know, my last name. And I really had gotten past that, but it was like always so. Anyway, I got real sick one day. He came home, and he found me laying in the yard in a coma. And I had gotten encephalitis. And if he hadn't have found me, That's one good thing about having relationships and, not isolating, is if you get an encephalitis, it's real important if somebody finds you. But it's one good reason to be in a relationship, Anyway, so I was in the hospital for a long time. I was in a coma. And it was a trip because that was my ideal place to be when I was using. But being in a coma clean was not a whole lot of fun. And I kept just barely coming to a little bit, and I remember saying, I was so scared. And I remember saying, this is really happening to me. This is really happening. When you wake up from a dream, and then you're still in a dream, and then you wake up from that dream, and you're still in a dream, and you just can't wait to get the heck out of that dream. It was like that for weeks. And I was so scared, and it's and the only thing I can remember is that every morning, and this was an hour or two away from the hospital I was in. Every morning, this guy, I wasn't quite sure who he was, would come in at about 6 o'clock in the morning and read out of this book something every single morning that had a special date on it. I had no idea what it was, but I knew. And, later found out that Tony came in every day and read Just for Today to me. And every day, he'd take the phone and put it against my ear, and my sponsor would talk to me 1 or 2 or 3 times a day. And people came, people called, and Tony took all the messages, something like 350 messages on my machine. People called from Boston and said, I heard you were sick. We're going to pray for you. They prayed for me at the Southern California convention. It was at the same time, and it stopped and everybody prayed for me. When I was using, I didn't have people call from across the country and say, I heard you were sick, And it worked. Man, I woke up. I was moved real slow for a while, but it was a real interesting thing, because after that, I went around saying, you know what? If we live in this trailer for the rest of our lives, it'll be okay. You know what? It don't matter if we rebuild a house, as long as, we're together, we got our fellowship. It removed all that stuff that creeps in about I gotta have the right watch, and my pants got tight, and that's not good, and I'm too fat, and I'm too skinny, and I don't like what this person said to me. It took it all away, gave me back that feeling that I had when I first got clean. It's thank you, God, for being clean today. One of my favorite sayings that I walk around chit-chatting at this fellowship is if you could get up in the morning and get dressed without assistance, it's a good day. Have a good time, And I believe that. I have a real good time around here. There was something, in my first few years, because I had always been I'm an addict. And in my first few years, one of my habits has been, when I get through this day, I'll be okay. I'm sure nobody here's ever done that. Just when I get through speaking, then I'll be okay. Or when I get through taking this test at school, I'll be okay. You know what? When I get through this week, I'll be okay. You know what? When I get through this month, I'll be okay. Once I get through winter, I'll be okay. Once I get through this semester of school, I'll be okay. Once I get through my first year clean, then I'll be okay. And I realized it hit me one day that the way I was going was that once I get through life, then I'll be okay. And I don't want to live like that anymore. just for this minute, everybody, just take a second, okay? Can you get into this minute, this moment, just for a second? Look around. Look at all the people. Everybody ate. Everybody's dressed real fine. Is everybody fairly comfortable? You know, look at each other. Beautiful people. People you love. Just this minute. Just this minute. Ain't it perfect? Ain't it perfect? I never had it so good. This is the best. This moment is the best. I had a sponsee once, I was telling her, oh, and I got to fly to here, and then I got to speak in here, and then we got to travel over there and speak there this weekend. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it. And she said, boy, Betsy, if you keep worrying about it like that, you're going to miss being there the whole weekend. And I thought, you know what, I don't want to miss any of life anymore. I don't want to miss you guys. I don't want to miss having met each and every one of you. Those little conversations we had in the corners, I could have missed that. I could have been locked in. My idea of being okay when I was using was locked in the bedroom with the drapes drawn and the phone off the hook, because I was so afraid. And today I'm still afraid. But I don't want to miss a moment of being with you, because when I'm with you, I feel like $1,000,000. You know, I'm going to wrap it up. And I was telling someone else this, and they said that they're sharing the same way too. So it's great. I'm not unique. But there's a saying around here that you hear a lot. It's called "Keep coming back." And we say it and we mean it, because no matter what, you are welcome in Narcotics Anonymous. And I say that for me. No matter what, I am welcome in Narcotics Anonymous. And yes, indeed, if you have to leave here, please keep coming back. I do want to say one thing before I end. Because of whatever, I love it around here. I'm having a good time. I have never had to say, I got to get back to meetings. I love meetings. I love being with you. I love the way I feel when I go to a lot of meetings. Sometimes, I go to 3, 5, 7 meetings a week. So what? If you don't like it, that's cool. I'm having a hell of a good time, and I deserve the best. I talk to my sponsor. I've never had to say, I have to get back in touch with my sponsor. I've never had to say, I really got to get back to the steps. I've never had to say, you know what, it's about time I get back into service. Because for me, I'm so lucky to be here, I'm just never going to leave. So... I'm so glad to be almost done. And so I want to say to you all that it's good to say keep coming back. And if you have to leave, please keep coming back. But what I'd like to ask you is just please stay. Thanks for letting me share.